Chair, the whole team of strong men. We are giving them 10 minutes to present. So you go to silent issues straight away. We know you are making roads. Some substandard, some like that. And there are many potholes. So can you start? We allow him present up to the end.
Yes.
Then we react.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I salute my honorable colleagues. This is a report of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure on the budget framework paper for the financial year 2021-22, then 25-26. Honorable Chair, as you're already aware, the shift from sector allocation to program allocation. Ours now takes care of two programs. One is the Integrated Transport Infrastructure and Services, ITIS, and the second one is Sustainable Urbanization and Housing. Those are the two programs. Of course, we have the land component, but which is now in the Natural Resources, Environment, Climate Change, and Land Water Management Development Program. Mr. Chairman, on page 9 of the report, I would like to highlight that the committee notes that whereas the ITIS program implementation action plan indicates that the program has 12 lead MDAs that contribute to its outcomes, the NBFP has reflected the proposed budget for the program of the key implementing 5 votes, leaving out the budget allocations to the remaining 7 MDAs. The ministry explained to us, of course, that MTEF allocation for financial year 2021-22 was made by vote and not by program. However, this is expected to change starting the financial year 2022-2023 as MTEF will be provided for programs. Similarly, under the SAR program, implementation, page 9, implementation action plan, the program has 13 MDAs that contribute to its outcome. However, MTEF in the NBFP, here we have 12. No, it is actually 13, but they only did budget for only 1, leaving out the other 12. So as a committee, we say the ministry, as the lead agent for the program, should liaise with Minister of Finance to ensure that the resources for the 12 MDAs are also reflected in the program. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to go straight to page 31 of the report. Given the time I have, which talks about observations and recommendations. Mr. Chairman, in our report, we talk about the Ministry of Works and Transport. In the Ministry of Works and Transport, of course, I know the committee members will reflect on the observations and the recommendations, but I will talk figures basing on the last 3 pages of my report, Mr. Chairman. If you go to page 56, as I talk, we shall go to reflect on the observations. The Ministry of Works and Transport talks about buying spare parts and repair services procured for the district road equipment, the existing one. And in their requirement list for 2021-2022, they talk about 68.5 billion, but the only available amount is 8.7. So they have a funding gap of 59.7, Mr. Chairman. This being a loan, we are servicing a loan for these equipment. This amount becomes necessary, although not to that tune. As a committee, we think about 10 billion for starters. But if you budget people have more money, yes, we can appreciate to have all the 59. But being that we are paying back a loan, we need these machines working so that we don't lose all the money. And it moves hand in hand, Mr. Chairman, with the refurbishment of mechanical workshop, which only requires, according to them, 5 billion, and they only have the equipment. The workshops are 8 regional workshops. So they only have 400 million. Their funding gap is 4.6. So we thought if we could raise them to 1 billion additional as a committee, maybe it would facilitate them. Mr. Chairman, the Marine Administration, we have paid a deaf ear on Marine for so long. Now is the time for us to begin thinking about it. Their requirement is 6 billion. However, they only have 800 million. You remember when we had this issue of the capsized boat on Lake Victoria? Even the Right Honorable Speaker told the committee to go and make findings, but things are not going well in that sector, sub-sector. So with the funding gap of 4.6, Mr. Chairman, we think that if we give them that money, it would go a long way. If we give them 5.2 billion as the funding gap, it would go a long way to rectifying issues of water transport. Of course, the breakdown is there, development of boat building standards for vessels, development of automated vessels, registration and licensing system. They also want water transport safety awareness programs, the search and rescue activities, which need only 1 billion. So the total of the funding gap is 5.2, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in our recommendations, you realize that we have the development of Kabale Airport, where we have a counterpart funding. Required is 4 billion. It is 4 billion required, 4.07. They have only 3. So you can see if we get that 1 billion and give it to them, since it is counterpart funding, our Kabale Airport should be ready very soon. Mr. Chairman, the standard gauge railway. This standard gauge railway raises eyebrows whenever we mention it. However, government is doing its best to procure the right of way all the way from Tororo to Kampala. So far, they have done up to Mayuge, Tororo to Mayuge. We have not touched Jinja, Kampala, but even the Tororo Mayuge still requires some more money. Their requirement for the whole length is 397 billion. They only have 19. So that funding gap of 378 billion, if budget committee can, yes. But for us as a physical infrastructure, we think if we give them 50 billion to pay off people on the Mayuge Tororo side, because the Jinja Kampala, now they're doing reassessment. Since people complained and they say now we have stayed so long without using our land, it must have appreciated. So the money we talked about previously cannot be enough. So reassessment is being done on the Jinja Kampala side. So to save us from a similar situation on the Mayuge Tororo side, if we get the 50 billion, we buy that land, we shall have saved a fortune, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we have the Duka. Duka has a funding requirement of 600, oh, no, not 600, of 268 billion. They only have 173 with a funding gap of 95, Mr. Chairman. The breakdown has bridges, 9 bridges for the Duka network. They have these cable foot bridges, a new technology we are using. We also have the steel constructed bridges. In that, there is 823 kilometers of district unsealed roads that need rehabilitation, 25 billion. They only have 10. They have 37.5 kilometers of district low-cost seal rehabilitation, which requires 15, but they only have 3. They have 10 kilometers of urban roads sealed. It is 14, the requirement, they have 10. We have 1,137 kilometers of community access roads, the predominantly known as interconnectivity. 75 billion, the requirement. They only have 47.2. The funding gap is 27.8. They have 41 kilometers of low volume roads sealed. This is the Probase technology. 27.7 billion required. They have only 18. 25 kilometers of medium volume roads. They need 50 billion. And also the number of Bailey compact panel bridges procured. Mr. Chairman, according to the committee, all this 95 billion funding gap should be provided in this budget so that these roads can be worked on. Mr. Chairman, we have the URC, Uganda Railway Corporation. Uganda Railway Corporation has a funding requirement of 200.6 billion. They only have 69.7 with a funding gap of 156.8 billion. Mr. Chairman, in their breakdown, we have 28 kilometers of Kampala-Maraba meter gauge line to be rehabilitated and constructed. Mr. Chairman, as you may recall, we got a grant from the European Union of 23 million euros, and our counterpart funding for government of Uganda is supposed to be 13 million euros. So if we make provision for this amount, it will go a long way in facilitating the other grant for the meter gauge railway to be constructed. That is 39 billion that is required. They have a funding gap of 31.8. But also, there's an element of compensation, compensating the project affected persons on the Tororo Gulu meter gauge line. That one is another requirement for the grant. So we need that 2.5 billion so that people can be compensated. Mr. Chairman, there's 100 kilometers of rehabilitation on the Tororo Gulu meter line. That one is also counterpart funding. That particular one, the 32.4 billion, is for partial construction works on that line. Of course, there are so many other things that are involved, like railway platforms upgraded, passenger train stations constructed, existing line coaches rehabilitated. They have 50 railway wagons and coaches to be procured, but also to rehabilitate 16 locomotives. So, Mr. Chairman, according to the committee, based on the big, huge funding gap they have of 156, we think if we provided 61.6 billion, I think we could make a good beginning. But if it is possible, even number 8, the 67 billion required for locomotives would be very crucial to make this work.
Number 3 is 16 or 6?
Number 3 is 6, yeah, correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the observation. It is 6, Janet. Oh, Agatha is also here. Thank you so much for the observation. So, Mr. Chairman, UNRA, Uganda National Roads Authority, they intend to rehabilitate existing vessels of Buvuma ferry machinery, procurement and operationalization of ferries of Siguru and the BKK, also Bunyonyi and Nachiwogo.
Are they there?
Also Kalangala.
Other members, Honorable Jane, other. So this one you have lumped them as one.
As one?
Rehabilitation.
Also procurement, yes. They are actually. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we have the breakdown in the report body. Okay. Identify the page, but we shall provide all the details of the requirement of 60 billion with a funding gap of 50.9. Uganda Road Fund, Mr. Chairman, has the element of national road maintenance of 420.8 billion. They only have 310. They have the KCCA roads to be maintained. Their requirement is 53.4 billion. They only have 25.3. The district's roads to be maintained need 227.7. They only have 120. The municipal roads to be maintained need 28.2, but they only have 20. The cities, the new cities, their roads to be maintained need 17, but they only have 10 billion. So, Mr. Chairman, with their funding gap, total funding gap of 260.8, as a committee, we recommend that if we can avail them 100 billion so that our road asset can be maintained, since we invested a lot of money in it, that could be good for starters. However, if you are able to provide the 260 at once, that would be the best. Mr. Chairman, in the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, we have the National Building Review Board. That National Building Review Board was given the previous year 6 billion for wage and non-wage. However, they sent to us communication, which was also copied to you, Mr. Chairman, where they have strategies to implement, including rolling out of their building information management system to all local authorities to a tune of 6 billion, establishment of the National Building Review Council Committee, 3 billion, consultancy services to strengthen the capacity of the board, 2.4 billion, a total requirement of 11.4. Mr. Chairman, as a committee, we do think if we provide 10 billion out of the 11.4, that would suffice. Mr. Chairman, we have the National Housing Policy. You remember when we passed the Physical Planning Amendment Act, this building, the Physical Planning Board was created, which we gave 6 billion the other year. And now they have a funding requirement of 4.2. They only have $500 million. So their funding gap is 3.7. But we think as a committee, if we gave them 2 billion, would be enough for starters. Mr. Chairman, we also want to capitalize, to recapitalize the National Housing Construction Company Limited. Mr. Chairman, these people who deal with housing, whereas most of it has been left to the private sector through the real estate, government should come and intervene because the housing gap is still very big. This company requires 231 billion. They only have 60 billion. Their funding gap is 171 billion. Yes. The national housing. Yes. Yes. But they have not completed. For example, they have here in Namungona 194 units which are incomplete. So they think if they got more money, they could complete. And with stable facilitation for maybe 5 years, these people would become self-sustaining, because now the first lot would be sold and now money would be back. So, Mr. Chairman, as a committee, we think if we gave them 100 billion instead of 171, this would go a long way. Of course, I cannot speak without highlighting the legal status issues of legal status. Remember, they are in partnership with the Libyans, who have 49 shares and government has 51. But when you read page 47,
so when we capitalize, what happens to our shares?
When we read page 47, Mr. Chairman, these people want to go into sole ownership. They want to, as Uganda, we need to pay off these Libyans, because after all, they are not even bringing in too much now. But it's even becoming a bottleneck to the transactions of the National Housing Company, because even if they wanted to get a loan, when they see the element of Libya, everybody says, even internationally. So these people said if we could provide them a letter with a strong recommendation from Parliament that please proceed to separate from the Indians so that it becomes a sole proprietorship, I think to go a long way in making them work much better. So page 47 of my report highlights it very clearly for members to internalize. Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I beg to insert a number 4 after capitalization of national housing. It was an omission, an error of omission. We can insert land valuation. I hope Mr. Opoti is capturing this. Land valuation. On page
Valuation under Minister of
Land.
Land.
Yeah, page 57.
So you mean 7 and National Building Review Board is in lands now?
Yeah.
What?
It is the program.
Yes, so it's under which board?
It is under the new program of, I'm not conversant with the names yet. It is called Sustainable Urbanization and Housing. That is the new program. Yeah. So,
They're under Minister of what?
yes. No, they are operating under the Ministry of Works.
Under Minister of what?
Operations.
So they contribute to the other program.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in their new arrangement, they contribute to that program. So,
But they are putting a Minister of Lands Housing. So you should have called it.
no, he's asking about building review. Building review board. Yes. Now this arrangement is under the new program. But previously it was specifically distinct under the Ministry of Works. So
How is their supervision to remain under?
it is still under the Works Ministry.
Contributing to the program.
Exactly. So, Mr. Chairman, I was seeking your indulgence to add land evaluation as number 4. I hope Mr. Poti captured that.
Valuation or evaluation?
Valuation. Yes, valuation. Not evaluation. They have a requirement of 17.6 billion. They only have 4. So their funding up is 13.6 billion.
So what do you want? They should value our land and have values in different areas.
Yes, that is part of their core activities to do that and advise government on how to proceed. But as a committee, we think if we provide for 2 billion instead of the 13.6 for starters, maybe it can help.
They should have value.
Land valuation, I have a senior valuer here, a surveyor. Maybe he can. Is my vice?
You want to answer what you want.
You answer. You give me an answer. What do they want to do? Land valuation. What do they want to do?
Valuation actually has many aspects that actually go by it. Of course, basically, the Chief Government Valuer's Office is mandated to carry out these activities for government and the country at large. So it has basic activities that is mandated to do. It's not just looking at valuing pieces of land or houses. There are also other activities that are mandated to do. So they have been underfunded, that is a fact. And they have not
going the other
performed
side now.
to their expectations. They have been underfunded. So I think,
Involving government land.
yeah, it's part of that. That is part of their mandate.
The last time when we had challenges, that oil area, when they compensating people, the challenge they had, the government value was saying, you could not, there's nothing based on to determine the value of land because there was no valuation policy. That you don't have a policy, there's no guideline, so there is no system in that entity. So for me, I thought maybe now, you're asking for money to set up a valuation policy or something like that to guide, because the department will tell you that they actually arrive at the value of land arbitrarily. Because that's what we found when they were compensating. So I thought that maybe by now you will be talking about setting up a policy or something like that. You know,
That we have some standard.
Yes, standard.
Okay,
But
that-
now what you're saying,
No, that is part of the interpretation. But it's part of the interpretation. Maybe they'll bring that in the yes, but that's part of the interpretation.
Yeah, thank you so much, my vice. Mr. Chairman, page 48 throws more light on that particular matter. Members can also read. Mr. Chairman, we have issues of Uganda Land Commission. Uganda Land Commission, when you read page 50 of the report, you realize that under section 41 of the Land Act, one of the purposes for which the fund was established is to give loans to tenants by occupancy to enable them acquire registrable interests under Article 237(9)(b) of the Constitution. Therefore, government should operationalize this provision by allocating ULC funds for establishment of the land bank facility, which will enable the fund to meet its funding requirements in the long term through interests incurring from the loan. So, Mr. Chairman, with that background, the committee proposes that instead of lumping up all the fund into the land fund capitalization, where we just give people money and they keep quiet because they are fighting for Vivanja and land, we should now operationalize this bit of the land bank facility, whereby those tenants come for loans, they pay back with interest. So as a committee, we are suggesting we make provision for 10 billion for starters, and later on the land fund itself, capitalization, which has a requirement of 40, but they only have 27, we give them that funding gap of 13 billion. Mr. Chairman, they also have issues of land inventory. The requirement is 5. Government land, yes. They have 5. They need 5. They only have 3. So they are funding gap of 2. We are saying if we give them 1 as a committee, maybe that would suffice.
5 years ago, when they got that money,
The 3.
the 3. So up to now, they don't have the inventory.
Mr. Chairman,
But they have been getting 3.
Mr. Chairman, our approach this time round,
Eventually, now again to increase.
our strategy as a committee this time round is to invite all the agencies and explain all the bits of money that we have appropriated previously before we reach the level of ministerial policy statement where we shall actualize this figure. So if they don't, then this can change. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, I beg to submit.
Thank you, Chair, for this good report. But members have some issues. But members, let's be very brief. Ask the question. Don't start again providing answers to the question. Then you ask. So we are starting from the line Honorable Kiza, Honorable
Gifted in that.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, what I want clarified from the Chair Infrastructure is on URC. The 3,200 PAPs for the Tororo Glue meter gauge railway line to be compensated. Who are these? The meter gauge line is already existing. The meter gauge line has the way, which you know, is it 30 meters on either side of the road? Who are those people again who came and entered the road which was already existing that you want to compensate?
All the road wants to enter people.
Oh, which road again wants to enter the people? Because we know the road we know the road is going to be rehabilitated or worked on is the existing road with all its existing what? Let it be, as long as you get it. So I want to know which these pubs, how they entered there. If they entered illegally, why are we again compensating them? The next one still on railways is the 4 platforms you're building or upgrading. Which are the 4 platforms? And the passenger train station to be constructed. If this passenger train to be constructed, is it also going to have a platform?
Next question.
The next question, Chair, is on UNRA and the operationalization and procurement of these ferries. BKK, Sigulu, Nakiwongo. Does this money include even the construction of the piers? What we know is that a procurement of a ferry is buying those parts, then come and assemble it on the pier. Does this money include the construction of piers?
Next question.
I think those are the only questions.
Mr. Chairman, the question is just a rejoinder of what he talked about. One is the rehabilitation of the Tororo Gulu line under URC. If you are rehabilitating, like he's saying, the 100 kilometers, how will the people be affected? Because it is a rehabilitation of a line that is in existence, like he said. So why do you want money for the pubs and yet you are rehabilitating? Mr. Chairman, we also want to know the 50 wagons that will be rehabilitated, the 16, the wagons that will be rehabilitated. Where are they operational? Then there is also the question of the capitalization of the National Housing Corporation. Have you looked at the audited accounts of this organization so as to be able to think about the recapitalization? But the other thing, Mr. Chairman, is yes, the National Housing Corporation.
What is our share?
What is, I heard the chairman talk about Uganda owning 51% of the shares. Did I hear right?
Yes, and Libya 49.
And the Libyans 49. I'm aware that we sold our interest to the Libyans. Now, yes, this was a national, it was a national, yes, it was a national thing, and for me, I knew that the Libyans own 100% of the company. So you need to correct the impression, because I knew this belonged to the Libyans, and if we own 50%, instead of 51%, instead of capitalization, why don't we just put it on the stock market so that people buy shares? We are saying we are going out of business as a government. We are going to privatization. Why should we continue insisting on again doing business? I want to buy shares. Why don't you put it on the stock market?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have the money.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to support it. That's what I was also having, that we should float, and I'm ready to buy.
Higher bus.
Secondly, Mr. Chairman, about the funding for the road fund, especially on district roads, I have a concern, Mr. Chairman, of infrastructure. We have so many other programs which are rehabilitating roads in the districts like Kaip, like now Ministry of Agriculture. So what is happening? The inventory and uptake of roads by the road fund is not considering those roads which are done expensively by other government agencies. Therefore, as such, for example, if you go to my district, you will find a lot of expensively constructed roads rotting away because of lack of maintenance. So are you sure that the requirement now of road fund is covering all those other new roads that are being constructed by government money from other ministries and departments?
Next question. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. My concern is on page 43, Chair, infrastructure. On page 43, 8.1.5.4, additional road funding for the proposed projects. Page 43. Yes, among the roads I also declare my interest in the circular road. You've not, as a committee, I've declared it. I've declared the interest. Okay. No. It's among those roads. No, it's specified. It is specified. But my question is, on page, when I go to page 57 under UNRA, the money allocated, I don't see, because you mentioned that these are additional funding for the road projects. There's Lusanja, Kazo, and the rest of the circular road, but you've not stated how much is required. You only say on page 44, the committee reiterates that additional funding be provided to UNRA to embark on development of the above mentioned roads in financial year 2021-22, but I don't see the figure attached to the additional roads. Thank you.
Next, Honorable Thieno. But colleagues, you note that we are the very ones who are telling finance the other day to postpone the new projects and first complete the existing ones so that they invest money in productive sectors.
Yeah, most of these questions have been asked, but I want to give it another dimension. Yeah, I want a clarification on the conversation of past. That, as my colleagues have put it, these are all lines. They are no to be displaced there. But I want that to this element here. I'm told the people who negotiated for this is a grant from EU. The people who negotiated for this grant are the ones who brought in that element of compensation so that they get a cut. So I want the chair to dispel that fear that this is not a cut for those who negotiate. Then two, I want to know where this passenger train station is going to be constructed. Then I go to capitalization. Honorable Kiza was asked whether they have seen. Chair, I want the committee to avail us the audited report.
Okay.
Not just seeing, but so that we can know whether there is what?
They will reply.
There was
If
the-
they have seen and they confirm to us, it's
I
enough.
want them to avail us. Then on the land capitalization, Chair, I also want these people to avail us also the audited report to show that there is need for capitalization, because land fund, this capitalization is a new way now technocrats have come up with to grab money from the country. Then three, a new window. Chair, on the land inventory,
On top of COVID.
on the land inventory, Uganda Land Commission is a trustee. It simply holds land on behalf of government. And what I ask,
Ask the question.
no, the question I'm asking is, I'm coming.
Chair, ask the
I want
question.
to what Honorable Sierra said. Why do we recapitalize when we have the PAD Act?
Sorry?
Why do we recapitalize when they have written here? Why do we recapitalize when we have the PAD Act, which helps the government to wind up the company whether it's doing well or not? Why do they put it here?
But there could be strategic
These are
interest where
strategic
you must
interest.
maintain your company.
So, Chair, my problem with this land inventory is that an inventory is just a mere record. So I want to know, they are not asking for titles, but just a mere record. For all the years, the land, I want to know why they have not been keeping a record of all the land under their management and their custodianship that they now want money for. Because it's just a record, an inventory is just a record. It's not that they are going to make titles for these lands, no. So why do they need money for a mere record, which they're supposed to be keeping? So Chair, those are the few questions I just want, but I've already been asked anyway.
We have another one, like I know Koboko is tarmac from Kampala to Toboko. It's all of tarmac. He has
Let him respond now.
even if we raise it tarmac, even via the bush.
The only
Yes,
way-
Honorable
It's
Elias.
only remaining Lira to Abim now. Lira to Abim.
Honorable who?
Chair, mine is an observation. You are right to say I have a project that is going to be for construction of tarmac road from Oboko to
Yumbe.
Moyo. And
Via Yumbi.
Yes.
via Yumbe, yes. Some compensation has been done, but there is a serious complaint on the ground that the values that are being determined for compensation are peanut. And the reason is, yeah, they are very little. The reason is that the owners do not have land titles. I thought government had set aside some funds to enable processing of land titles. Is that correct? Yeah. Why don't we then help such people to get land titles than really robbing their land? It's a serious issue on the ground. Thank you.
No, there is first of all the land, the project of land titles, helping those who are vulnerable. Yes, demarcation, yes. So such okay. So Chair, you can take on those questions, but I will also add to you the railway rehabilitation. It has existing space. Is it 15 meters? The information I'm giving committee, some 3 or 4 years back, there was a team from railway which put a meeting in my constituency. Fortunately, I was also around. And my grandfather's family is affected because we have, the railway goes through our land, the railway line. But they came to ask people to vacate 60 meters on either side. 60, they are trying to grab people's land, and we chased those people that day that we are allowing you the area which was there, so you don't have any business with our land. So you clarify all that.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Chair, and indeed the Honorable colleagues for the wonderful questions. If I may begin with the Honorable Elias of Koboko. This issue of systematic land demarcation, that is the program that helps people get titles. Yes, it is working. It is under the land fund itself, but it has not been rolled out throughout the country because land fund itself has been concentrated on one side of the country, as you are all aware. We are just trying to convince them to begin other areas as well, like Kachumbala and other areas. So we shall continue our efforts of persuading them to do that. But the issue of value, when you don't have a title, is quite tricky, because at times even the value is shared by two, the landlord himself and you, the tenant. So that is the challenge they face. So this little money they give to the sitting tenant, it doesn't mean that is all. They will give more money to now the real landlord. So that's where they have a challenge, Mr. Chairman, but we shall persuade them to roll out the systematic.
The problem is they should not cheat to an
Yeah. As we are meeting the land valuers, the land valuation office, we shall highlight that to them because we are going to meet them. Then we shall see how to go about it. The Honorable Charles, did mention about this Tororo Gulu line. What happened during the negotiation of that grant? They were persuaded to increase the road corridor from 30 meters to 60 meters.
The railway corridor.
Yes, the railway corridor to 60 meters. So the people who are in the additional 30 meters must be compensated. And it is a requirement by the EU for us to get the money, the 23 million euros. So compensating those people is a must, otherwise we lose the grant. Of course, the 30 meters is still available. It belongs to government. You see, this train is going to be high speed. It is meter gauge, but the new designs of the locomotives are much faster than those original, the original colonial ones.
Yes, a supplement on that.
Yeah.
Supplement on my case.
Supplementing.
I'm supplementing.
The issues raised by the budget committee, as a committee of physical infrastructure, it was very pertinent. We also raised those concerns in the previous budget. Because this matter, much as it's appearing right now, it was even in the previous budget. We raised the hair on the issue, but we were convinced as a committee that since it's a grant, the EU, tacit government of Uganda, that this line has already been encroached on. This line has been already encroached on. The EU discipline does not allow just to people. So social responsibility was taken so keen on this matter. That's why that money is arising.
Chair.
Let's seek a clarification first. What we know originally with the law, the Railway Act or whatever, governing the line, 30 meters on either side is the land belonging to railways. The meter gauge railway is just going to be rehabilitated, just improved. There is nothing new. This one existing is a meter gauge, and a meter gauge is going to be rehabilitated. Members,
on the same line.
Honorable Lugol, they have told us that the new fashion of the railway are faster than the original ones. They have told us like that. Now, let's get the concept right. First, get the concept right. We are not in a market. Hold on. They have told us, I'm guiding so that when you come in, you don't take us back. They said the type of railways which they will bring are faster, which means there is a reduction in a corner, not these corners we have now, the trains. That means you need a wider area to make straight some areas. Is that the argument?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Now Honorable Tieno.
Chair. Two things have emerged here. But I want to first begin with the first one. It is not true. The world over, there is no modification of meter gauge. They are moving away. They have moved away from meter gauge to standard gauge. The world over. So nobody should deceive and lie. We shall put here on both.
There's nothing in the middle.
We shall put here on both. The world over, there's nobody should deceive you. I'm on authority on this. Nobody should deceive you.
From Tororo.
Hey, where the railway is. that no standard, there's nowhere where they are no longer producing meter gauge engines and so on. They are now on standard gauge. Two. The chair said that they have expanded 60 meters.
Yes.
But the man, the colleague who wanted to clarify, said it is actually not 60 meters, but EU said that those who are encroached should be given something before they are leaving. So now take note of that's what he said. Is here.
It was a wrong clarification. Mine was more authentic.
He's not dead. He's here. Chair. These are men, and he said they went there. He went there on the ground, they verified, and he was clarifying the chair's position.
No, that was a private visit, not as a committee. It was a private visit by the honorable member.
Honorable members, his point was, if he is giving you money, you are going to, it's not that the people encroached on the railway land.
No,
It's
we are expanding the
it's the railway which is encroaching on people's land by expansion. Now, EU requirement is, they are expanding. That one is a point. Now, EU requirement. Yes, but they have decided to expand. But the EU requirement is you must compensate people of their land.
2.5 billion.
EU requirement compensate people. And they must have evidence of compensation.
Correct.
And a proper settlement of the issue.
I want to give more information.
Chair.
Mr. Chairman, for your information, they have even compensated some already.
Can I give information, but I know he has a...
Yeah, no problem. Okay. But let me give information. That we know very well whether you have a title over some land, so long as somebody settles on your land for 12 years undisturbed and challenged, I mean, let's first look at it. Okay. Now, I'm making the point. I'm building up my point, please. I'm building up my point.
From the 15.
Now, what I'm saying is, there are people who have encroached on the railway land. Okay? And they have been there for 70 years. And they have been there some houses. They have been digging there. They have been looking at it as their kibanja. And now you cannot just come and send away those people and compensate it.
Okay.
That's
Very clear. For example, in Teso, when the war came, there are people who started cultivating up to inside that reserve area. Even some built houses. But the years they have been there, are more than the 12 in our laws. So it now becomes, it is implied as if it's their land. They must also be compensated. Procedure. Correct. Procedure under section.
We only have
Mr. Chairman, in accordance with our rules,
tomorrow in Guru.
Mr. Chairman, I think we are agreeing depending
It's
on
okay.
most of our individual knowledge. But would it be procedure right to consider the valuation reports if they exist as we consider this particular item? Because that would be the realistic position on the ground.
But we need to first to understand.
The concept.
Okay. Chairman, can you wind up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the issue of UNRA ferries, it does not include the piers, Honorable Irukor. The Honorable Chiza also talked about the PAPs, which we have resolved. But there are wagons already working, transporting especially cargo. Those are the wagons they are talking about to be rehabilitated. Yes, sir. More money here. Thank you so much. Honorable Charles. Indeed, the budget committee should assist us. I can work out the figures, additional figures for the piers with UNRA. Yes, I'm here on behalf of the sector. Yes, I am here. Exactly. So the Honorable also talked about audited accounts for National Housing Construction Company. I will endeavor to get them and also provide a copy for this committee.
But that one, I think it's a popular decision here, which we might put in our report that they should float those shares.
Well, I do not have an issue with the idea, because even we have interested buyers already. But I want to clarify, Mr. Chairman, that LICO is Libyan African Investment Company, still holds 49%
Those are the ones who want to buy.
of the shares, and the government of Uganda holds 51. So it's not true that we sold off our shares to the Libyans. So that is the true position, honorable members.
But you told us capitalizing means acquiring the other shares.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
You said to become a sole owner.
Among the activities,
Inject this money to buy those shares.
not all the money is required for that, because most of the money actually is required for completion of the units. For example, the Namuona 194 units.
Is when you are shareholders, you have your shares 51%, and these shares have value.
Yes.
So when you recapitalize, when you add the money, you either hold it, it means you increase your shares, or the other shareholder also must bring the same, inject the same. The moment you inject more, it means you are reducing the shares of the other partner.
True. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. But during our discussion,
Yes. You inject in an investment when it's making profit.
so yes.
If it's not making profit,
But Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Honorable Kakoza, that's not correct. You may even inject more capital into
salvage.
losses in order to
salvage.
that's okay.
the business.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
as
51 majority shares. If the audited books of accounts are correct, they could mention the portfolio of that business.
Okay, that's that one they are going to follow.
They could mention, because it's not a matter of saying that you are going to recapitalize. How much money? If that's what you are saying, the point is, if the other guys you are making profits and they are floating their shares, why not export?
We need the fund to complete the
Mr. Chairman, I want to be very clear to this committee.
You must look at the
There are
balance
two different things here going on. The funds requested here now are purely for construction. But the process for acquisition of LICO is also ongoing. Before we appropriate this new budget, I'm sure we shall have moved to the advanced stages of that process. That's why it requires the other letter with a strong recommendation that Parliament says, yes, you go move towards sole proprietorship. So this money is for construction. I just wanted to be clear on that. We have already invested, but we have not completed.
the construction.
So if you stop,
Yeah.
we lose. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Ngabirano, yes, this issue of other projects and the CAIP may not have been captured by the Uganda Road Fund. I tend to agree. And it's one of the key issues that we want to interface with them and see how to capture them, because we invested money, but we cannot maintain the roads, so they are becoming totally impassable. The Honorable the Honorable Bududa.
answered
You
Yes,
must maintain the road.
Yeah.
What more are you having?
correct. The Honorable Bududa, the Bobulo Bududa Circular Road, yes, but according to the UNRA presentations, they didn't give us the whole amount, the requirements they need for all those roads. As you may have seen on page 43, it is planned. So in our interface, we are going to ask so that they provide that information. Honorable OO had quite a number of issues, but I think all of them were around one same thing. And having said that, I thank you so much.
I would like to thank you for your presentation and explanation, the whole team.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Putting up that information in the record time. Now, colleagues, presidential, hand over to the clerk. Hand over what you have. You can leave and join the committee and then the committee.